Am I happy? I don't know. Never really thought about it. Don't really care about it. Because all I really cared about was when I looked in that fucking mirror, I saw a piece of shit.
So the other day I was asked this question and I had to ponder on it for a bit and thought to myself, what would the appropriate answer be? After some long thinking, the answer is yes. Even though my life is nowhere near where I want it to be just yet, I am happy. And in this video, I'm going to explain my perspective on life and why I am happy. When it comes to life, I like to think of it in a perspective lens. And you can look at life in two ways. You can either look at it in an achiever's mentality, or you can look at it in a victim's mentality. Someone that's either going to overcome stuff or someone who's just going to blame everyone because it's easy, but that doesn't fix the problem. If you were to ask me this question several years ago, my answer would have been vastly different from the answer that I've had today. One of the things, too, that I've learned about growing up in the 28 years of life, I know I'm young, I guess, compared to like older people, I suppose, but in my 28 years, it's been feeling like a long time. I would say one thing that's helped me mature, I guess, at a faster rate is solitude and having to face my own demons. And this could be a video hours in and of itself, but when you're someone like extremely introverted and cut off from the world, like you're isolated, you are by yourself a lot, you just have you, yourself, and I, right? When you go through stuff, it forces you to grow. Like it forces you to take a look at your life and your perspectives, and it forces you to mature, because when you sit alone with your own thoughts for so long, you start really breaking things down and analyzing them. I'm not saying that extroverts can't or won't do this, but you know what I mean. It's for me, in my opinion, being alone, even though in the moments of my lowest days was the absolute worst thing imaginable, was the exact reason why I have the outlook on life that I do now. And in those moments, the reason why I'm telling that story is because in those moments, my mindset shifted. Like I would have said a couple of years ago, if you would have asked me this question, I would have had a victim mentality. I would have blamed everybody for my circumstances and situations that I was in. And a lot of people would have think rightfully so, right? Oh, you weren't dealt the right hand in life. You weren't born with multi-trillion-dollar parents. You weren't born into a life of abundance and wealth. You weren't born with all these qualities and attributes that people want to see, or pretty much you were dealt a shitty hand, or dealt a less favorable hand, I guess you could say. And I could sit there and come up with a billion excuses. You talked to me a couple of years ago, I could come up with a billion reasons and excuses why life sucks and why it's bad, and these things keep happening to me and it's everyone else's fault, and my job is shit because of this, and I'll get into that shortly, but my job is shit because of this, and my life is shit because of that, and this has happened. But like I said, as I sat with myself, and as the thing is that as the years go by, you can't, you even if you didn't want to change your mentality, being by yourself, being alone will force you to, because you'll run out of excuses. Eventually, you'll just get sick and tired of hearing yourself come up with excuses. And one day, your brain will ask the question that you'll try to ignore, but you have to accept, which is, what if it is your fault? What if you are the cause of all your problems? What if you're the most common denominator in every single factor of your life? And if friends abandon you, if family doesn't want to talk to you, if all these situations don't turn out the way you wanted, you're in the middle of all of them. So what does that mean? And once I realized that, it was a huge shift in my happiness, because what I realized is that I'm in control. And I don't know who said this quote. I heard it a couple years ago and it stuck with me, and I know it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. And it's, can you change it? And if the answer is yes, then why worry? Once again, can you change it? The answer is no, then why worry? And that's the truth. When I think of my situation right now in life and how I said at the very beginning of the video that I'm nowhere where I want to be, I'll tell y'all a little bit about myself. I'm currently 28 years old, gonna be 29 this year. Old as shit, boomer, pretty much. And I work a shit job, right? I'm not gonna go into that boohoo crime and river story, but a shit job, like a lot of people, unfortunately, doing it to pay the bills, not doing it because it's my passion or I love doing it or I even want to do it or whatever. And I make enough money to cover bills and basic expenses. And I guess it's just the typical, I guess, what a lot of people go through. But when I started breaking down these certain categories in my life, a couple of years ago, I'd say, okay, wait a second. When I was extremely overweight, I used to blame the food that I ate. Not saying that I was blaming myself for eating that food, but the food itself for being addicting, or I'd blame the gyms for not being close enough or too expensive. But then I realized, no, you're being a fat fucker. You're just not getting up and taking the initiative to work at home or work out at home or go to the gym. And you're the one putting those foods in your body. No one is force feeding you anything. So if you want to feel better, you can change that. Same thing with my job. I'd say if there's one thing in my life that would bring me the most stress, and I put parentheses around that because everyone has different versions of stress. I know some people will say, you think that's stressful? You haven't seen nothing. But the thing that would probably brings me the most stress is the job. Not waking up every day and doing what you want to do, right? The feeling that you had when you were a kid. And being able to live life the way that you want to live. Waking up when you want, going to sleep when you want, traveling when you want, just living your life the way that you see fit and not the way that a company sees fit. That would be the biggest thing. And once again, I'm not going to lie. When I have to go to work, I hate it. I hate every time that alarm goes off. I hate every time that I have to be there. I hate the amount of hours I have to be there. I hate everything about the job, the people, the place, I'm not going to say I hate people, but, being around people and the place and the description of the job and everything. But once again, when I take a deeper look, a couple of years ago, if you would ask me that, I would say, it's the company's fault and, it's corporate America. I know it's this bullshit. And it's oh man, it's capitalism and all the other stupid stuff. But then once again, taking a look into accountability and asking myself that question, I'm the most common denominator. What have I done in these past 10 or 15 years that got me in this position? Because I magically didn't wake up at 28. I didn't just go from 18 to 28 in a blink of an eye. And when I thought about that, and like I said, sitting by yourself in solitude will force you to do these things. Because what ends up happening is that when you're able to distract yourself, it's kind of just like going on TikTok and scrolling, or being around friends, or going out to a party or a club or something. It's like when you have other things that should be getting done, when you're able to distract yourself with other stuff, that stuff leaves your mind temporarily. Or even if it's looming in the back of your mind, the stuff that you're currently doing overtakes it, so it's not that bad. But when you sit by yourself, those thoughts never leave. Like, those thoughts get louder and louder because you're faced with it. You can't escape it. And when I looked at my life, I thought, man, ever since I was 16 when I started working, but ever since I was 16, I bounced from job to job. That's my fault. I didn't take entrepreneurship seriously. That's my fault. My friend recommended things to me, but we both didn't follow through on them, like, day trading and random stuff and starting a business and woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff, and that's my fault. The situation that I'm in today, essentially what I'm getting to is that the situations that you're in today, 9 times out of 10, because there is always that 10%. There are things that life does to you that you can't control. There are shitty hands that get dealt every single day. But for the most part, I would say probably 95% of the things in your life are within your control. Like, you can control them. You can change them. Like, there's nothing stopping you. Like I said, you're the most common denominator in all of these things. And once I realized that and I accepted that, it was extremely depressing for a little bit, because I realized I wanted to dig myself in a deeper hole of sadness, because I said, holy shit, so I'm the one causing I've essentially dug a hole, jumped in it, it started raining, and the dirt turned into mud, and now I can't climb out, and I'm screaming, well, this is unfair, life is unfair, why can't I dig myself out of this hole that I've dug and hopped in, and now it's raining and I can't get out. But the good part is that you can get out. You just have to make the decision to get out and work your way out. And I don't know, after it became depressing for a bit that I had caused all the turmoil in my life, it became extremely liberating. And then I became generally happy. Like I said, I still have my moments of sadness like every human being, and I still have the days where I'm sad, right? Like I still go through the emotions, the emotions that most people go through on their day-to-day lives, or on that Sunday, right? That dreaded Sunday when it's 8 or 9 o'clock at night and you wish you didn't wake up in the morning. You hope you had a heart attack before you went to sleep, or wish you didn't wake up in the morning because you have to go into that job. And, fun fact, I think they say that heart attacks are the most likely on Mondays because of the stress people have from going in to their jobs or whatever it may be. But yeah, and like I still go through those emotions, and I still go through the whole, my God, man, I've got a whole week of this. And, it gets to a certain point, and I've said this before, I think one of the things that have to happen in your life for you to truly make a change, after accepting that you're in control of your own actions, and then you allow that to change your emotional state for the better. One of the things that I would say has to happen for a lot of people is something that is called an FTE, which is something that is a fuck this event. MJ DeMarco talks about it in some of his books. And it's essentially a catastrophic event that happens that's so devastating that it forces you to get up and make a change. It's something that happens that permanently sears your brain with that memory forever. And it's destructive in nature, but it will cause you to get up and move. It's just that moment when you toss your hands up in the air and say, fuck this, something's got to change now. Like, something's got to give. And examples of that are like someone who's, and it's all about identity. This could be a whole other video in and of itself, but it's all about identity. It's like, do you identify as someone who's lazy and doesn't want to do anything and occasionally works on business casually? Because if that's the case, you'll never achieve anything. Or is your identity someone who's an entrepreneur? The example of the FTE, right, is a woman who identifies as a smoker. She identifies as that. And if you tell her why she should stop smoking or that she could, she'll come up with a billion excuses. And she'll hit you with lines like, that's just the way I am. That's who I am. I'm a smoker. It's what I do. Like, it's their identity. It's not just a habit. But then one day she gets pregnant. She goes to the doctor for a checkup, and the doctor is telling her that the smoking could be affecting her baby and might kill it or might have extreme health complications when it's born. And all of a sudden, overnight, like a miracle, like a flip switched in her head, she never smokes a day in her life ever again. She quits the very next day and never touches another cigarette. That was her FTE, her fuck this event. And like I said, the list can go on and on. The person who's extremely obese, who doesn't go to the gym or doesn't work out, take care of their health, and they have a heart attack or a stroke, and now they're either permanently damaged or they could have been. And that's their wake-up call, makes them realize, or something happens to someone like their loved ones or something from obesity, and that's their FTE. This needs to change. I've had several FTEs in my life that's had me change things. The examples I'll give is when I was in school, I was extremely overweight and like I was pushing borderline obese, if not obese. And my friends were all walking up just one single flight of steps to get to the top. And we would walk around the hallway in circles until the bell rung. And then after that, you had 5 minutes to get to your homeroom. So, we'd walk around for 5 or 10 minutes, just walking in circles in the hallways. And we went up one flight of steps and I'm out of breath. I know I'm getting sidetracked. I'll get back to the point in a sec, but I'm out of breath and they just walk ahead of me and I just can't catch up. Like those one flight of steps almost killed me and I'm trying to catch up and they turn around. They're like, "You good?" And I'm just huffing and puffing. I got my hand on my chest and I'm looking down and that was my FTE. Up until that point, I would make excuses as to why I couldn't work out or, just like, I guess, bitch excuses, like, or bitchy excuses, I don't want to be sweaty, it hurts, I don't want to feel my heart rate go up and, it's going to be painful. But that moment changed everything. From that moment on, I lost that weight and I've never went back to that weight ever again and I never will. And like I said, there are many more FTEs examples in my life that I could give, but when it comes to happiness, I would say the two main things is taking accountability for your life and realizing that other than that rare 5 or 10%, that the things you can't change, which you shouldn't even stress about because you can't change them. Those are non-factors. It's the card that life dealt you or whatever. And if those cards can't be switched out, they can't be interchanged, you can't do anything. So you might as well let that go. The other 90%, you have to realize that you can change it. It's you. Like you are in control of your life. Whatever it is you want to do, you can figure it out. You have a phone, you have internet, you have a brain, you can figure it out. It's just figuring out how to know how, like just figuring out the know-how. And number two is, like I said, the FTE and hoping that doesn't have to happen to you before you make a change, like realizing that if someone watches this video, and I hope it helps someone, I know T-Sizzle, I made the video, hope that you enjoy it. But if someone watches the video and you now know what an FTE is, I hope that you understand what it means and how bad it can change your life. And some FTEs you can't recover from. Someone who's extremely overweight who has a heart attack, they might not get a second chance to change their life and lose their weight. They might be an example for someone else in their life to become an FTE for them. And the list goes on and on. But like I said, number one for happiness is just taking full accountability for your life and realizing that you can change your life. You can make the decisions that make your life better. And number two is, like I said, either an FTE or hoping that an FTE doesn't happen, realizing what it is. And I've talked about this a day or two ago on my TikTok. If y'all want to follow that, it's Digital Mentor Tim on TikTok. But it was creating an anti-vision for your life, right? Creating an anti-vision. A lot of people create a vision board of what it is that they want. But I saw recently doing the opposite can have an even better effect, which is creating a vision of what you don't want in life and imagining how your life would turn out in the worst case scenario. Asking yourself, are the actions I'm taking today leading me to that anti-vision? And if the answer is yes, turning around and running the hell away from whatever it is, whatever habits you're doing, whatever lifestyle you have, whatever identity that you have, completely changing that and turning that around. Because for a lot of us in life, some of us don't know what it is that we want. And some people don't know their passions, their dreams, or their goals. And sometimes in order for you to figure out what it is that you want, you need to figure out what it is you don't want and what you don't want to do. And from there, you can figure out, okay, well, I don't like this. I don't like this. I like this kind of. Let me dabble in this for a little bit. Let me take this seriously and see where this leads me. And that's how you navigate life. But that was the gist of the video. I know I went off topic, and I apologize for that. I know I was sidetracked a bit, but yes, the two main things. Number one is, like I said, taking full accountability for your life. And when you do that, your happiness should go up. At least for me, it did. My baseline of happiness, like I said, and another thing too, see, I'm rambling. Another thing too is that one thing I've read when I read books and stuff is that people talk about happiness and they think that what's going to happen is that when they achieve something, that their happiness is going to be like all the way up here and it's going to stay up here. But in reality, it goes up here for a little bit and then it drops back down. So your baseline of happiness is always going to fluctuate, but it can be a little bit higher than it was previously, depending on what it is that you achieve. So, for example, if you're working a dead-end job and you hate your life, you hate your finances, you have no money, your health is all fucked up, your baseline is probably going to be way lower, right? I don't know if y'all can see my hands right now. Hopefully it's not cut off, but, baseline is going to be, I have my hands like this and I'm just doing this, but, your baseline is going to be all the way at the bottom, right? At the lowest. And then if you, let's just say, start a business, go through the trials and tribulations of building a business, it starts becoming successful, you're able to quit your job. You don't have financial freedom just yet, but you're financially independent. You don't have to work a 9 to 5 anymore. Your baseline is going to shoot up really high. You're going to feel like you're on cloud 9 for a bit, and then your baseline is going to go right back down. It's not going to go down to as low as it was when you were working that job. It's going to be a lot higher, but your baseline is just going to be a little bit higher than where it was previously. And with everything that you achieve, your baseline is going to shoot up and then it's going to come back down and consolidate somewhere else, right? So whenever you're doing something, whenever you're going after something, whenever you're achieving something, just realize that your baseline is always going to increase, but it's not going to stay up in the clouds, cloud 9, feeling like heaven, right, every day. But yes, accountability, and that will raise your baseline of happiness by a lot when you take full accountability, because you realize that you have control and you wake up and say, I can make a decision today to push forward, and also working towards a goal. Okay, this is the last point and then I'm going to end it because I'll go on for a long time. But working towards a goal will make you happier than doing nothing. Like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, distracting yourself, games, if you're not, uploading content or trying to make a living off of it or something. All these things are short-term dopamine enhancers. And it's just like a coffee or a Red Bull or something, 5-minute energy or whatever. It's like they'll give you the energy that you're looking for, that your dopamine, the dopamine that your brain craves, and then it'll just drop. Like your energy will just completely drop. You'll have that high for a little bit, and then you'll go down. And then when you go down, it really goes down. Like you get extremely upset and sad and depressed because even though you were feeling good while doing it, now you feel horrible because you wasted time and that dopamine was meaningless. When you work on a goal and you actively see yourself improving in something, that brings life-changing dopamine. Like that brings effective, worthwhile dopamine that encourages you to keep going after those good habits. Like it sucks in the short term, like going to the gym, working out. When you're tired as hell, you're sweating, it doesn't feel good. If you have to do it before or after a job, it doesn't feel good. But when you get home and look in the mirror and start noticing these small gains, you notice that you start losing fat around your face or your neck or your stomach. That dopamine can't be replaced. It's like a special kind of dopamine. And same thing with a business. You start a business, it sucks at the beginning, right? You're working 9 to 5 and then you get home and you're expected to work 5 to 9. You're expected to get home from a long day of work. And like most people, they just want to chill, leisure time. They feel like they deserve to rest. They want to kick their feet up, watch TV, scroll on their phone, get distracted, watch a movie, whatever, eat junk food. And like I said, that'll bring you short-term, but not long-term dopamine. It'll make you feel worse. But when you start working on the business, it might suck at the beginning, but when you start seeing that you're improving, like for example, with me, when it came to video editing at the very beginning, when I started, I was horrible. And I'm talking 10, 15 years ago. I didn't know anything about Photoshop, anything about After Effects, Premiere Pro, and those are just softwares. But when I didn't know anything, I felt dumb. And like most people, I'm brand new. I don't know anything. I'm messing up. I don't understand anything. I don't understand basic concepts or nothing. And it's embarrassing, humiliating, doesn't feel good. But then when you start making progress and you wake up one day and something clicks, or you wake up one day and you're like, oh my goodness, I can finally make a thumbnail by myself for the first time without having to look at a tutorial. Or, oh my goodness, I know how to make a YouTube video, know how to do cuts and add transitions and music now. I don't have to worry about looking stuff up. And oh my goodness, I'm getting faster and more efficient. And oh man, like I got my first client, I got my first sale online, or I got my first YouTube check, or, whatever it is your goals and dreams are. I'm just using that for an example. That's, like I said, that is that dopamine that can't be replaced. That is like the best form of dopamine, because it's something you're working towards a worthy goal. I don't know what Earl Nightingale said. He said true success is when you're actively pursuing a worthy ideal. He said something along those lines, not those exact words, but he said true success, a man is a success if he wakes up in the morning and is continuously improving and working towards an ideal. If he can lay down at the end of the day and feel accomplished with what he's done or where he's going. And like I said, even though it sucks and I hate my job and my life is nowhere where I want it to be right now, when I lay down at night, I'm happy. Or not happy to have to go into work, but my happiness of knowing that I'm progressing is what makes my baseline level of happiness high, or higher than it used to be by far. It's because I know that I'm actively taking steps towards my goals to achieve the lifestyle that I want. When I knew that I was going to go home and bullshit, I knew that I was going to go home and scroll my life away on TikTok or just take a nap or eat junk food, of course I was sad and depressed, because I knew I wasn't going to achieve anything and I was just wasting time. Like, of course you're going to feel sad and shitty, because if you're not taking accountability, you're blaming everybody else. And that might feel good temporarily, but since you blamed everybody else, you're saying that what's going on in your life is uncontrollable. You can't control that. So you're blaming everybody else, which makes your situation uncontrollable. And number two, you're not working towards anything. You're not seeing progress towards anything meaningful that could change your life. So there's no reason to be happy. So T-Sizzle, I'm sorry for the video that turned into a 30-minute one. I hope this answers your question, but the two things that I would do is, number one, full accountability, no matter what's going on in your life, full accountability, and realizing that you're in complete control over everything that you can do. And that should give you liberation, and that should like drop some weight off of your shoulders. It might suck to realize that, wow, I'm the cause of all this, but realizing that, hey, I'm the cause of all this. I can change it. Like, I can fix this. Like, I did this. Okay, cool. I can do something better than this. And number two, just working towards something. Whatever the goal may be, just working towards it. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. Doesn't mean there's not going to be bumps along the way or times you fall off track, but you can always get back on track. The only time that you fail is when you quit. You just give up. You throw in the towel. Start making excuses. So this is the video on why I say in life, generally speaking, I'm happy. And I know that my baseline of happiness will go up so much more when I achieve the goals in life that I have set for myself. But if somebody just randomly were to come up on the street right now on a random day and just say, hey, Tim, are you happy? I'd say yes. I am. Indeed.